Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today, I'm excited. We have a new family member. Adam is my new best friend, and Adam and I are going to talk about many, many things today. Adam, welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about what you do and why you do what you do?
Absolutely, Jeff. Well, I'm honored to be here, grateful to be here. I love being part of the family already. Who am I and what do I do? I mean, I'm just a good bald-headed man that lives in Charleston, South Carolina, that loves to serve other people. In reality, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm a son of an Olympic swim coach. I was an athlete growing up. I played tennis in college, professional tennis. Well, let me rephrase it. I attempted to play professional tennis, Jeff, and found out real quick that I was an American, not a European. I was getting my butt kicked all the time. So I said, I'm done with that business. Though I did get into the business world and been an entrepreneur my entire life. I have, like I said, been in the tennis business. Myself and a couple other guys, we owned the concession rights to the city of Beverly Hills public tennis courts. So we ran that for a long time. Then I got in the real estate world, and I've owned 3 real estate Keller Williams Realty franchises. I sold and exited those. I've built a SaaS company, sold and exited that. And now I'm building the I Love Coaching community, Jeff. And the I Love Coaching community is a community with a vision statement that says to empower coaches to change and serve 100 million people. And that's where we are on right now. So what do? I help coaches build the coaching business that they're called to build. That's what I get to do all day, every day.
I love it. And there's so much I could unpack just in that. But I'm a huge fan of the Keller Williams business model. I love John Maxwell's books. I think it's a great model. I'm fascinated that this really, truly, the coaching model, in my opinion, is far superior to traditional leadership models. And it always amazed me why organizations wouldn't have a coach on team to, if you want your team to succeed, why wouldn't you bring a coach in?
Sure. Well, I think there's many ways to skin that cat and answer, though at the end of the day, John says it best. If you've read one of his books, the 5 levels of leadership, the very first level, Jeff, is positional leadership. And positional leadership says, hey, because my name is next to the letters CEO, I'm the boss, right? I'm the boss, and this is my world, and this is my ego, and this is mine. Where the 5th level leadership in the book, John describes a 5th level leader is someone that builds other leaders, that knows how to go build other leaders, right? And at the end of the day, as we are growing yourself and growing others, are you stepping into the space where you can go serve and provide value to other people and become this 5th level leadership? So why isn't there a coaching in some industries and organizations? I believe it's because you got to look and see what type of leader is leading the organization.
I love it. Now, let's talk about beliefs, because I think you and I started that before. What are some of the limiting beliefs, first of all, around somebody becoming a coach?
Sure.
Because I think you and I both love coaching. I think that's a fair comment. I mean, it is literally your brand. Sorry, I'm not stealing your brand here, but I love coaching as well. From a personal point of view, I always have at least 1 or 2 coaches, and I'm always coaching 1 or 2 people. What are some of the things that get in the way of people becoming the coach, as you said, that they were called to be?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. I think there's so many ways to answer that, though. In basic language, they get lost. So let me rephrase it. They have lack of clarity around their who, we call it the payoff, and then again, simple business language, how to price it, right? So what I've experienced coaches when they come into our community is they can coach anybody on anything, right? And what we know, if we look at generalists versus specialists, if we talk in the doctor space, a generalist doctor, I go there for a bruise, I go there for a cold, I don't go there for reconstructive heart surgery, right? The generalist doctor knows a lot of stuff, but the specialist doctor is going to be one that specializes in something specifically. So when we see coaches come in that may slow them down from coaching, they don't even really know, Jeff, what they want to coach and where they have passion in the coaching space. And I'll give an example about that. We had a lady come into our community, and we have what we call a blueprint. And the blueprint, John Maxwell helped me create this. It's called the REAL Blueprint, REAL. And that's not an arrogant term, Jeff. What that really means is we believe that every coach should be a real coach. It's an acronym. It stands for relevant, experiential, authentic, and leader. Because when you step into the coaching space, you have to know that you can coach. Rory Vaden says this all the time. You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So that's your relevance, right? Experiential is you have experience in what it is specifically that you're coaching. Authentic means that you are authentically experienced and relevant in that space. So don't show up in BS. And a leader, Jeff, is someone that literally gets someone to influence somebody, right? A leader is an influencer, and an influencer just gets someone to take action. So I believe that people don't get into coaching sometimes because they don't have clarity on a lot of things.
Well, I think the other thing, so there's a phrase going through my head. It's turn your mess into your message. And I think a lot of people, they feel like society rewards the billboard version of I'm successful. And it's like, no. I don't care what your image is today. I want to know who you struggled through to become who you are today.
That's right. Because there are other people, and again, the language of Rory Vaden through brand builders is you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. And here's the neat part about that. You don't have to create anything new if you're serving yourself from yesterday or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because you already did it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel there, because we call it problem solution cycling. You've already established this was my problem, and this was the solution that I created. And there are other Adam Roaches, there are other Jeffs out there who are in the same boat as we were 1, 2, 5, 10 years ago, that we can actually expose their problem, because we've had it, and share with them the solution that we have come to.
You know, I'm fascinated by this. And by the way, everybody, you're getting a master class on coaching here. I was told over and over by branding experts, and by the way, I have a certain disdain for them now. They all said, no, you need to be who you want them to be, not who you have been. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me, because I write books, I create courses, I do all kinds of things I use 5 years ago, Jeff. It was like 5 years ago, Jeff was dealing with something. I'm going to help him solve these problems, because I know there's a bunch of 5 year ago Jeffs out there. But then the branding people say, oh, no, you can't show your flaws. You got to project this image of, showing them, fake it till you make it kind of thing. And I'm like, that doesn't feel genuine or authentic to me. And
no, not at all. Yeah. If you go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, I'm fascinated. I want to hear how you stepped into the role of coach, because I know you had a very unique origin story, and not everybody's going to get picked out of a crowd by John Maxwell. But John saw something in you, and this is what I want other people to see. John saw something in you. You felt called to do it, and you became who you're meant to be. I think, honestly, a lot of people are afraid of that call, because I hear this over and over. Who am I to help others? And it's like, who are you to not?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I think you have to really, I was inspired by my dad, right? My father being an Olympic swim coach. I knew him as dad, and I knew that, well, he helped the people that were in the water swim faster, right? That's what I thought as a kid, right? And then when I see him go to the 84 Olympics in LA or Seoul in 88, right? Watching him, I didn't know what he was doing. And it wasn't until he passed in 2019. And my dad was always My dad was always my borrowed belief, right? So I believe sometimes you are going to be insecure. You are going to be scared stepping into this path of serving other people. Though, who can you in your world or in your ecosystem borrow their confidence, right? What can you use to borrow confidence? So I watched my father in the coaching space, and I watched him. I didn't know this terminology as a kid, but he was transforming these men and these women, right? And so when I got to speak his eulogy at his funeral, I looked over the crowd, Jeff, and I could just see all the lives that he had impacted. I could just see it, right? And this was these people, these swimmers, these coaches, these athletes in the room. This was, probably 35 plus years post when my father had coached them. And yet there was between 300 to 400, maybe a little greater, in the room. And I thought, wow, when I die, I want something similar. But it wasn't I wanted something similar like a lot of people in the room. I wanted to be able to impact that many people. And so that's when I had my 3 Keller Williams Realty franchises. And being a spiritual guy, I came back to Charleston after my father passed. He unfortunately passed in his way too early. He was in his 60s. He died from Parkinson's related issues. And I came back to Charleston. We call it the beach chair moment now. And the beach chair moment was I sat on the beach here and I mourned. I brought my Bible. I brought my journal. I brought some sunscreen for my bald head. And I sat there, right? And I just kept writing. I kept journaling. And I have it right here. And it's Proverbs 13:20. And it goes like this: walk with the wise and become wise, for companions of fools suffer harm. And I kept hearing that over and over and over. And so I took it to my pastor. I said, hey, I'm hearing that I should surround myself with different people. And he's like, well, have you ever considered selling your businesses? And I thought, no. And he says, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you think you're hearing a higher power, and this is the scripture that it lays up against, you probably should take action and surrender. I said, okay, fine. And so I did, Jeff. I used borrowed confidence from my dad, who was passed at the time. And I walked into my investor meetings and I said, guys, today's an easy conversation. I'm surrendering to a higher power, and either I'm going to buy you out or you're going to buy me out. I'm not attached to the outcome. You guys can decide. And they all decided to buy me out. So Jeff, I had to then step into this confidence borrowed from my father, led by being spiritual, and say, okay, here we go. Let's build something. And that was 7 years ago. And here we are today, having grown the community to have been on 4 continents now.
I love the story. I will say, when I had my moment of calling, I wasn't quite as ready as you. And I was like, nope, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And you cannot argue with that voice.
No. You can actually, hold on. You can argue, but that boat will keep coming back. I mean, that feeling, yep. That boat, and that is so true, Jeff, is we can not follow that inner voice. It's true. We all do it every single day. Something tells you to do something, you don't do it. There are listeners right now, Jeff, that we know feel called to do something different than what they're doing. And here's why they don't do it. Uncertainty, right? Yeah. Uncertainty of what is that next step. And what causes that uncertainty, in my own opinion, is what we call conditioning, right? They're conditioned to believe that whatever, we call them survivor jobs, right? Survivor job is enough. Survivor job is safety. Survivor job, whatever, fill in the blank. But they know it's not their calling, right? They have this itch. They have this twitch, right? And it's like, hey, I feel like, but don't tell many people, I feel like. And the next thing you know, either they act on it or they don't. I get a little passionate about this stuff, Jeff, so I apologize if I get a little excited here from time to time.
Oh, no. This is why we're meant to do what we're meant to do. For what it's worth, I've met many people who had their survival jobs. It is fascinating thing with the show. I interview visionary entrepreneurs. I've found over and over and over again, they all started out with what they thought they should do. They had the survival job, then they realized they hated working for others, so they built the survival business. And then when they found the calling, and many of them, like me, said, nope, not now. And then at some point, it starts with a tickle of a feather. And then I think when the anvil hit me on the head, I went, I get the sense I'm meant to do something else.
Well, I'll give you an example. I started to say this a second ago and I didn't finish. There was a lady who came into the community and she started to go through the blueprint. And the blueprint is a 4-phase process that we help coaches establish their business in. And she decided she wanted to coach a specific avatar because that was the container that she came from. And about 6 months into it, she gives me a call and she's like, if I ever have to coach one of these types of people again, Adam, I'm going to pull my hair out like you. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? She said, well, I'm going to go back through the blueprint. And she went back through the blueprint and she texts me, I don't know, a couple of days later. And she says, oh, I missed part of it. And I said, what part did you miss? And she said, well, when you're describing your avatar, you said I have to have passion for this space. A lot of people miss that part, Jeff. And
minor detail, right?
Minor detail, right? And we have a 3-part checkoff that says this. Once you have your avatar defined, do you like them? That's the very first question. Do you like them? Secondly, can you help them and serve them? And lastly, can they pay you? So she went back through it and she came out on the other side completely different with the avatar, passion oriented, and her coaching business went up to the moon.
That feels like real results. I love it. And by the way, one of my little rants, I don't care who you are in business, but if you can't explain to me who you work with and why, I don't want to hear anything else about what you do, because I know you're not fully, you're still putting that one toe in the water going, I'm in business, but I serve everyone. Let's talk about generalist versus specialist for details here, because I think too many people, when I hear I'm a business coach or I'm a life coach, I cringe because I'm like, yeah, that doesn't help. So what are your thoughts on that, Adam?
Well, that's not here. Let me help the listeners here. That's not wrong, right? You're not wrong in being a generalist versus a specialist. Though, if you are a generalist, you're not going to become a known authority in a specific space, right? So again, if I'm a general practicing doctor, I'm a doctor. But if I am a cardiologist, baby doctor, I know I work specifically with babies in their heart, right? And what happens is, if you are a generalist, people won't know you for a specific problem solution cycle, and they'll just see you as a coach, right? Or Jeff, I think you said like a life coach. Okay, cool. Life coaches are great. I love life coaches. Though I want to know what part of my life you are going to help me in my problem solution cycle. I'll give you an example. I've been married twice. And let me rephrase that. I was married once and now I'm married forever, right? So this is my wife right now, who I love dearly. We call each other our equals, is just, I mean, she's amazing. Though I wanted to make sure, Jeff, that the second time around, I wasn't going to mess this up again. Number one, I couldn't afford it. And number two, I genuinely did not want to be divorced again. So I hired a life coach, but I didn't hire any life coach. I hired a relationship specific coach. Yep.
Yeah.
And that relationship specific coach knew exactly relationally who I'd met at another event, was specialized in the pre-engagement portion of a relationship.
Wow, that is a niche. I love it.
Yes. So hired him. He whipped me into shape, Jeff. It was so cool. And I was doing it as a surprise to Dana. That's my wife's name. And it felt so good that I actually pulled her into the coaching. And she was like, well, is something wrong with us? Do we need coaching? Is that why we need coaching? No. I'm doing this for my sake so I can be a better version of myself for you. And I want you to come in here so you can experience my growth. And she was like, great. So she did, though I went to find a specific coach of a specific problem that I wanted to have solved. And he was that man.
Well, and I want to underline that because I think a lot of people get wrapped up in I am labels. I am a coach, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
But people buy solutions based on I have this problem.
Right. Yes.
And as a consummate networker, my greatest pain in life is when people give me vague labels and I'm like, I don't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to joke and say, one day I'm going to start a coaching program for left-handed dentists.
Oh, love it.
Everybody laughed at me, and I'm like, no, I'm not kidding. I'm right-handed, but my son is left-handed, and I noticed he was in martial arts, and he had to learn everything twice. First of all, he had to learn it how the instructor taught it, which was always right-hand dominated, and then he had to reverse it and learn it left-handed.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to start something. And people are like, oh, left-handed dentist, that's not a real thing. It's a real thing. If you Google left-handed dentists, there's an association.
Wow. That's interesting. That's really cool. In the same breath, though, Jeff, watch this. When you learn your specialty, I've watched this so many times. Generalists will charge based on what they believe their value is. Okay. Again, nothing wrong with that. But the challenge is in the coaching world, the way that I coach coaches is you are never for sale. Jeff's not for sale. Adam's not for sale. Any of the coaches that are in our community are not for sale. What's for sale is their solution. What's for sale, we call that their payoff. Right? What is that payoff? So when I was working with Dr. Kelly Flanagan, the payoff was, Jeff, I didn't want to get divorced again. Right? I know how expensive that first time was. So I was looking at that math in my head and then looking at the price that he was charging for the payoff to become a better version of myself. And I was like, whoa, that's a great trade-off. His price compared to what I paid the first time through that situation, I didn't want to do it again, so I'm definitely going to pay him for that. So when you can get specialized left-hand dentistry, and there is a solution that gets solved, and then you can sell, but I don't even call it sell, Jeff. I call it invite. You can invite people to the payoff, and the price that gets charged for that payoff, we call it the 1/10th rule. So if I could teach you, Jeff, how to make $1 million and the invite to that system, to that process costs you $100,000, who wouldn't trade $100,000 for $1 million? Everybody in their right mind would.
Yep. And that's the key, in their right mind, right?
That's right. And it's not about me now, right? And this is where a lot of coaches get hung up is they make it about themselves versus the payoff. And I'll tell all the listeners who are thinking about stepping into coaching right now, I want to give you a little pro tip, a little hack here. Your buyers, your clients, they don't really care about you. They don't really care about your parts. They don't care about your process. They care about the solution you can get them to the problem that they have. And if you just happen to have what we call enough emotional proximity, they will come to you.
Yep. I love that. And I think that's a lot of people try to manufacture demand. And it's like, there's no shortage of people with problems. And if you can find a way to solve them, you never have to worry about demand.
Right. Yeah, exactly. About every 6 weeks, Jeff, we run what we call our 10K, the 10K coaching offer challenge. And what that challenge is we take coaches through a three-day challenge. It's 1 hour a day on how to build a 10K coaching offer. And what's fascinating when we do this, there's so many coaches that will come into it that they are focused on themselves. And by the end of it, we show them how you can be removed from the transaction because it's not about you. It's literally all about the offer and the payoff that someone's going to get. Or in my case, the opportunity lost cost, that I didn't want to get divorced again. That was going to cost me a couple $1 million. And therefore, $5,000 to pay this coach for a month was totally worth it.
I love that. And I think that's, again, too many people. I've seen a lot of coaches focusing on the inputs, and then some get into the here's the steps, here's my methodology. And I have a weird bias, Adam, and I'd love your thoughts on this. I personally believe that anyone who is a professional service provider, and I love this for B2B, B2C, I believe that they could all benefit by adding coaching as an offer to their business.
Yes, I agree. Because here's, again, this kind of goes back to what we were saying at the top of the hour. When you have a system, when you have a process, both of those produce an outcome. Now, I was taught a long time ago the word system could be confused as like a dirty word, right? Oh, system this, system that, system this. So I want to share with the audience the acronym that I learned that helped me identify that system was not a dirty word. And the acronym is save yourself time, energy, and money. And so these save yourself time, energy, and money. So the service industry that you are discussing, B2B or B2C, yeah, you have a process. You have a system that serves your end user. And there are other people that want to do similar things, maybe even in your own vertical, that you can teach them. And they will pay for that. When I was selling my businesses, Jeff, I realized that there's always two types of buyers out there. There are the copycat buyers. These are the people that want to buy your business because they want to copy what you've done and they don't want to do what you did.
Yeah.
Then you have the financial buyers, and those are the people that are buying your business based on the EBITDA of the cash flow, right? And so when we look at what you just asked, the buyers there are the copycat buyers that if you are in the service industry who want to do what you have done so they can get what you got, and you might as well package it up and sell it to them because they'll buy it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love that. And for what it's worth, I get into a lot of conversations about the value we bring in building the business. And I'm fascinated because a lot of people, they don't want to, quote unquote, waste the money on coaching. And yet, as you've said, they've unconsciously decided that the cost of coaching exceeds whatever cost of mistakes they're going to make.
Right.
As one who's made a lot of mistakes, I can guarantee coaching would have always been cheaper.
Yes, always. And, Jeff, we have to look at this. Because, sometimes that's a financial decision. All right. Yeah, maybe that is out of my budget. And maybe I don't know the payoff. Or maybe I don't understand the opportunity loss cost. Though you got to remember, who was it? It was Benjamin Hardy, who wrote the book, Be Your Future Self Now, right? So I'll say it again, be your future self now. And I want to break this down because who you are right now, the present you right now, is probably 95% manipulated based on yesterday's thoughts and actions. The present version of you right now is driven by what you know, learned, acted upon yesterday, not by your tomorrow self. Your tomorrow self, you haven't experienced yet. So therefore, it doesn't really pull you. So I hired a fitness nutritional coach not too long ago. And he handed me a cleanse. He says, Adam, you're going to do this cleanse. I said, okay. So I looked at it. It was a 16-day cleanse. Man, it had chicken on it. It had steak on it. It had eggs on it. It had toast on it. Jeff, I was all about this cleanse. And It had coffee on it. Now, this is a silly example, but I want everyone to hear this. It had coffee on it, and I don't drink coffee. I don't have anything against coffee. I just never drank coffee, and I actually don't like the taste of coffee. It's too bitter for me. I don't know. And I don't like drinking anything hot. So I go to my coach, who I've already paid for, and Coach Alan Dick, DYCK. Actually, he's up in Kelowna, British Columbia. And he says, okay, Adam, here's the cleanse. I said, great. I'm all on it, but I don't drink coffee. What can I substitute it for? And he says, are you going to do the cleanse? I said, yes. I said, but I don't drink coffee. He says, Adam, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you going to do the cleanse? I said, yes, I'm going to share with you one more time. I don't drink coffee. He says, well, then you're not going to do the cleanse. He says, you got to realize yesterday, Adam didn't drink coffee. If you want this version of your future self that you are envisioning, and you want to follow my process because you know the payoff you're going to get is the desired outcome that you want. And he threw this right in my face. He said, because you said to me that you wanted to live longer than your dad, you're going to drink coffee. So he says, Adam, what version of yourself from yesterday are you going to kill? I was like, oh, that's good. Yeah. He said, because if you want future version of Adam, you're going to have to drink coffee at least for 16 days. And I said, okay, you got me. I said, but can I at least drink decaf? And he says, yes, you can drink decaf. I said, great. So that's something that everyone has to listen through is if you're not willing to pay for coaching, you're not attaching yourself to your future version of yourself. You're attaching yourself to your past version of yourself. And your past version of yourself has only gotten you to where you are today. A coach will get you to where you envision yourself for tomorrow.
I love that. And for what it's worth, I'd struggle with the coffee too. So
yeah, you don't need me on caffeine, Jeff. I'd be bouncing off this wall.
It's like, okay, I'm trying to get rid of bad habits, not find new ones. But anyways, now I'm fascinated because one thing I want to underline that I've just finally figured out recently is that there has to be that pause between the identity of who you were and the identity of who you want to be. And I'm a terrible coach some days because I'm autistic and I just go straight to, you told me I have a problem, we're going to fix it. That's I'm right. The mean drill sergeant coach, right? Mm-hmm. And now I realize we all need to take a moment and say goodbye and let them grieve that past identity, because if you don't do that, the future changes don't stick.
That's right. That's very, very true. I believe in the coaching space, Jeff, it's about relationship and connecting. So if we're talking now about being a coach, I believe that I call them the 3 E's, right? And so as a coach, when you are listening to your clients, you have to have empathy. Empathy means to your client, you see them. In the coaching space, there's another book I love to read. Donald Miller is his name. Donald Miller is a great guy. He wrote the Story Brand. He wrote a book called Hero on a Mission. And he says there's always 4 characters in a movie. There's the victim. There's the villain that holds the victim down. And remember, a victim is someone who is not willing to transform. So there's a villain that holds all the victims down. There is no hero. There is a victim who is willing to transform that becomes the hero. And then there is a guide. And the guide is the one that goes out and battles the villain to find the victim who's willing to transform. Okay. So if you are a coach and you want to go black and white, A to Z, right? You want to get to that end goal to help them achieve the payoff. If you want to be if you want to be a coach that is, I'll just say irresistible, right? They need you. They want you. They are going to refer you. You have to have these 3 E's. And the first one, as I just mentioned, was empathy. You have to have empathy because that's what a guide has. A guide has empathy, and a guide also has competency. The second E that you need is empowerment. You need to help your client realize that they are capable of achieving whatever it is that you guys are working on. Because that empowerment phase, go back to my father, my borrowing of his confidence. I wouldn't have been able to build this community the way I have without his confidence. So that empowered me to do it. And take Dr. Kelly Flanagan. He empowered me then to go propose to Dana, right? And then the third E is encouragement, right? It is encouragement. And that is to be hopeful. Now, there are different types of coaches out there. And you may say, well, Adam, that sounds soft. Okay, I would agree. Though here's the thing. Not only do I have clients that I've personally worked with for the last 5 years still with me, and yes, I have raised prices, right? I have exponentially raised prices. I have coaches that have come into my community that have stayed in our community with a 92% retention rate. Why? Because I follow these 3 E's. And when you can follow those 3 E's, and you definitely want to go A to Z, you want to go black and white, sometimes though you have to slow down and you got to have empathy, right? That's what a guide does, is they have empathy. They have competence. And so Jeff, I know that was a little bit of a long-winded answer there, but that's what I believe.
Love that. And by the way, I like the long answers. It's, yes or no doesn't get us anywhere. So I could talk to you all day. I'm fascinated I love talking to other coaches, and especially coaches who inspire coaches. That's always a great conversation. Where can people go to learn more about you? I love coaching, connect with you, and maybe find a way to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Very simple. Just go to my Instagram. Go to Adam R. Roach. There's 2 R's there, so Adam R. Roach. And if you want, just DM me the word coach, and I'll send you over our how to get paid to coach, right? How to do this. It's a free PDF. I think it's like 5 pages long, and my team has put this together of questions you can ask yourself in this coaching space. Is how do I prepare myself to become a coach? So Adam R. Roach, and go get that on Instagram. Happy to help anybody, Jeff, that is a listener of yours. They want to go check out I Love Coaching. They can see that there. ilovecoachingco.com, co.com. That stands for community. And you'll have all the stuff on there, from our community to our 10K coaching challenge to our $250,000 intensive that we offer 3 times a year. And we're just here, Jeff, to empower people to go serve other people. That's what we do.
I love it. Well, thank you for being on the show with me today, Adam, and I look forward to future conversations. We'll be having more discussions about this, I'm sure of it.
Yes, we will, Jeff. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.